Hey, John, welcome to LSAT Unplugged.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So I was really excited to be speaking with you today because you're living it, you're living the dream, you are living life as a lawyer. And given that, I'm hoping that you'll be able to share a bit more of what it's the real world experience is like behind the scenes. What is it actually like being a lawyer? You have your own practice, right? What exactly do you do?
That's correct. I have a solo practice, a full solo, where I handle everything myself. I'm an immigration attorney, but that's a pretty wide field. The thing about immigration is it touches upon so many different types of law, whether it's family or criminal stuff or going to court or federal appeals. I handle what's called benefits based, which is really dealing with the government through mailing them stuff for people that most of the time are legally going to get an immigration benefit, a work permit or green card through marriage or citizenship, that kind of stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. And I remember before we started our conversation, you mentioned that you would kind of built the firm around your life. And given that you're a solo practitioner, of course, you're in the optimal position to do that. How do you find that balance and how have you crafted things to have a good work-life balance?
It's been a dream. I'm living the dream, really. And I hate to say that because I'm afraid I'm going to wake up now that I'm putting it out there. But, when I went to law school, we would go to, these night things where we talk with firms and lawyers and how their lives are. And many times I would find that they're not really satisfied in their lives, or at least I could tell that was it. On a Wednesday night, there would be a drinking, we go to their firm, everyone would be drunk or drinking a lot. And I'm like, well, it's Wednesday at 9 o'clock at night. Why are they that drunk? Or why aren't they with their family? And everyone has different goals in life, how they want to live it. Some people want to be high-powered lawyers that make a lot of money. I thought, I want to live a more simpler life with my family, have time to do things I want to do. I don't want to work 12 to 18 hours on a firm work on a case-by-case basis necessarily. I like to work from home. I like to, not argue with people. I don't want to have a deadline. So I don't go to immigration court because immigration court requires me to be at a certain place at a certain time and to argue with the government attorney. I just mail stuff to the government on my own schedule and in my client's schedule. Being a solo firm, I can pick and choose my clients and the type of cases I want to do. But I control the finances of my business, so I'm flexible and I know how much I need to make things move. But at the same time, not force myself to take on cases or deal with people I don't want to deal with just because of the overhead. And that's why being a full solo has been so helpful. And, I like to travel and work from wherever I want. I work from home most of the time, but if I go to Las Vegas, DC, Washington State, New York, I just need my laptop and I do everything I do at home. And so it's really flexible the way I've done it.
That is really cool. So the biggest question I have is how exactly did you get there? Because anyone can, especially working from home, you can carve out a corner in your house or apartment for a desk, but where do the clients come from?
Sure. I mean, that's the number one thing being a lawyer is getting clients. There's a lot of good lawyers, but doesn't necessarily mean they can get clients. And unless someone wants to hire you and pay you, all that knowledge is worthless in reality. And so when I worked for a solo practitioner for about 2 years before I started my own firm, and I learned the law and how it works and how to manage the office itself. But then when I opened up my own firm, I thought I'd get a lot of referrals from family, friends and stuff. I have a foreign background. My parents are from Iran. And I know a lot of foreign people, and they promised me, the world, that we're going to send you so many clients, this and that. Nothing came. So I spent a couple of months just studying online marketing and how to have an online presence. And sure enough, after a couple of months of putting myself out there, I was way ahead of the game, and it just expands and grows. And most of my day is just turning down people that want to hire me. So about 99% of people who call me, I don't take on the cases. And about 30-40% of them are cases I could take on, and they're good money, if you will. But they just don't meet my ideal client type. So I just don't accept the case or I tell them, I turn them down or various ways just so I get the perfect client that fits me. And it's because I've been able to have an online brand and presence where I put myself out there and people contact me through that.
Wow, that's an incredible position to be in. And once again, I'm sure that many law students and future law students are envious of this. What kind of networking worked well and what kind did not work well? You mentioned the internet, but obviously there's a million options. What's effective, what's not?
The traditional way people do as lawyers are referrals from friends and people they meet in meetings and stuff. But I found that not to be too helpful. If you are going to network, don't go to free networking events. Maybe when you're starting out, just to get the hang of talking with people and not being shy. But I used to go to local bar meetings where everyone would come. And what I found was it was just people that were just coming to hustle and try to get a quick client or talk. They wouldn't go anywhere. The quality of the people weren't that high. If you're going to go and network people that pay to get in a group, for example, if there's a door fee, that weeds out a lot of people that don't have money, just to be frank. And the people who have successful business will come. And so the people you'll talk with have the money to pay, $20, $50, $100 or more to come in that group. So they're actually doing business and not just struggling to come in. So don't hesitate to pay a fee to go to a conference, a seminar, a meeting with other lawyers. That's a way of weeding out people. Even my own firm, I have a consultation fee, and the primary reason for consultation fee is to work with people who are willing and are excited to work with me or are interested, not just wasting my time. And so I would do meetings and go networking like that. And I still do because I like talking with people and learning new things from them. But I found when people refer me clients, the people that are being referred, the potential clients, usually have like an expectation that I'm going to do all the work for free, or I'm going to spend hours and hours and hours with them at no cost. And I'm going to give them a discount because a friend sent them. What I found online is when people find me through the internet, they then do a search and they see my background, my awards. That I've been I am a professor of immigration law at several universities, and all the programs I do, my podcast. And when they contact me with a certain level of respect and appreciation and willingness to work with me because they know how much dedication I have to the field. I have several videos and programs I do where I teach at law and I work with other lawyers. And they know I'm not a fly-by-night kind of guy. I really need to use this time wisely because I only have a few hours in a day. And so the people that come to me are much more appreciative as opposed to a referral, which is just like my phone number a friend gave. And they call me blind. They don't have that level of frankly, respect contacting me. But everyone else does it differently. Everyone does the networking thing. That just doesn't work for me. And I'm rare, I think. It's probably in the future, it's going to be more and more in the model I'm doing it. But right now, most people don't do it like me.
So there's a lot of valuable insights there. I agree 100% that if someone just has your name and phone number and they don't Google you, they don't see all the impressive credentials you have in your online platforms and your podcast and website. And so there's a different expectation there, I think, because then it's more of a commodity. They're just saying any name and phone number without the credentials would be equal to them. They don't know.
Yeah. Branding is so important, and setting up the first expectation right. It's just, and that's something I don't teach in law school, but just as much as contracts or business associations or crim pro, crim procedure, all that stuff is important. Knowing how to brand yourself is so important, because if you start working as an associate, and some people like being employees, there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. I never could handle being an employee for a long time. I wanted to control my own destiny. If you can't market your business and close deals and get clients, you're never going to control your life. So it's really important to start reading that stuff in law school. So you have a running start. Even if you want to get hired as an attorney, if you go into an interview with someone who's somewhat knowledgeable and like an older attorney that is somewhat understanding of the importance of the internet, and you come with, I know how to build your brand online. I know how to use social media to do that. We can do podcasts and videos and this kind of stuff we're doing right here. If they're able to include that as their package, in addition to, graduating at a good grade or having an internship or externship somewhere that was successful, that I think that adds a lot of value to, the person who has the ears to hear, the employer that has an understanding. And that could be a really cool thing. That's an add-on to their value.
Well, that's a really valuable insight. So you're saying that employers might value a prospective first-year associate, not so much for their legal skills or know-how, because they may not have very much right upon graduating, but the internet and social media, I think especially for smaller firms, they could really see the value of that.
Yeah, you said it's smaller firms. And because, if I bring on someone that's a first year 2L, 3L, even a graduate, it costs me time and money to train them what to do, and they could just bail out on me and stuff. So there's this idea of like, oh, I'll tell this lawyer I'll work for free or I'll work really cheap. It's not cheap. It's still going to take my time, and there could be mistakes, and I got to oversee you and have to have extra space in the room. So there's all that. Having additional things, sometimes for some firms, it's having additional language skills. But I think if the firm has understanding and understands what the internet is, and most don't, frankly, lawyers are the last to upgrade stuff when it comes to technology. But if they have somewhat of understanding and you come in with the idea of the social media or marketing aspect that's different, it could really be a difference.
Wow, that's really, really valuable insight. Now, I gathered that you went straight from law school to having your own practice, right?
Well, no, I worked for another attorney for 2 years. He was a solo practitioner, older gentleman. But when I came on board, I just came in as a translator at first, actually, for like a day. And then I'm like, I could just do this legal work. And he's like, okay. And he pretty much gave me the reins of the firm, and I ran it. He would come and check on things, sign stuff. But so I ran his firm essentially for almost 2 years until we got so busy and I needed him to come to help out. And after 2 years of just being on my own, essentially, and having someone be there with me all the time and micromanaging, I was like, oh, I can't handle this. I was a great guy. I'm more of a loner when it comes to work and stuff, or even I don't play soccer or basketball. I like tennis and skiing. I'm a solo kind of guy. So I was like, I can't do this. I got to do my own firm. And I've been doing that sixth year now, and it grows really well. And again, it goes to my lifestyle and the things I want to do, which is practice law, but at the same time, I like doing educational stuff. I'm creating a marketplace for legal education and training and all that kind of stuff. And I needed the extra time to do those things that are long-term payouts. It might take years for those to actually go somewhere, but I couldn't do that if I was working for someone, or if I had to take really complex, time-consuming cases that would suck up all my time.
Wow, that's really interesting. So you've got this other project going on with legal education. Who's the target for that? Would that be law students or current
That's
lawyers?
part of it. It's called the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox. The website's theimmigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. And it's for people, graduating law school, maybe they can't find a job and they want to start their own firm. Immigration is super complex. At first, when you go into it, it seems very easy, like it's a bunch of forms. But when you dive into it and you see the nuances, it gets really hard. So I want to have a place where they can go and study it there. There's people that are tired of being criminal attorneys or, litigators and all that kind of stuff. They want to go to something that's potentially more just more peaceful because you're handling that. Or they might want to do more humanitarian stuff and help people that are having difficulties with asylum or the court system, with the immigration court system. So they can learn that stuff as well as people in the immigration field, because immigration is so big. There's people that only handle like a third of the kind of cases they are. Like I handle certain kind of cases, like an L1 intercompany transfer. It's when a foreign company wants to transfer employees to the U.S. And have them work here and eventually potentially get a green card. It's a very complex, difficult case, and many immigration lawyers don't know how to do them. They don't have any experience with the clients or having done those cases, so they're kind of afraid to do them. They don't have anywhere to start from. Well, I can give samples of my cases and do videos breaking down what the rules and regulations are on this, and have training materials that are updated, and so that they can access those, learn those, and get involved in this field. And then develop that community. So it's current immigration attorneys, people switching, and law students and recent grads.
Well, that's really interesting. I actually work with a lot of pre-law students who want to go into immigration law. A lot of them often immigrants themselves.
Yeah.
You might be able to share, given that this is like your focus, are there certain common misconceptions or myths you see about immigration law that don't really match the reality?
Yeah, I mean, the idea that it's forms for, first and foremost, people think immigration is all deportation, people getting kicked out of the country, or humanitarian stuff like asylum. But a large chunk of it is companies investing, starting businesses here, people getting married, coming legally. So there's that aspect. Then they think it's just forms, like the basic forms we fill out. But the complexity of law is much more than that. So you have to understand the law and prepare the cases for it. And then the fact that they think there's no money in it. Now, immigration law is, even when they do the surveys, it's one of the lowest paid areas of law. But that, I think, has to do more with, one is people doing humanitarian cases, which is a large part of it, and not getting paid that much because they're doing it because of a sense of duty and obligation and trying to help people. And another is immigration attorneys, and most attorneys in general, aren't good at business, so they just don't run their offices well. They'll be getting a lot of cases and a lot of money coming in, but for example, they might have an office lease that's $3,500 a month, and that just eats up a big chunk when they're like, they don't need that space. Or they have phone services that are $2,000 a month when they could get a $100 one if they just do a little more research. So not good at running the office, not good at collecting the money, and frankly saying no when a client isn't good for them, or a client wants a discount on a case that really should charge $5,000 because it's just so much work, but they end up charging like $1,500 because they're afraid they might lose the client. They're desperate. So just all these different ways of not managing themselves properly causes them to be lower paid, but you can make a good lifestyle and a good living being an immigration attorney. And like for me, I have the free time to constantly study and become a better immigration attorney. With immigration law, you can study this stuff every day for 20 years and still not know a big chunk of it. It's that complex and hard. But you got to start somewhere. And for the most part, if you find a niche and focus on that, you'll get better and better in that area. For example, I could do an L1 intercompany transfer pretty well, but I can't go to immigration court and handle myself too well because I know all the rules and regulations and what I'm supposed to do. But unless you're doing it on a day-to-day basis, I wouldn't recommend jumping into it or for example hiring me for it because I think You should go to someone that does it on a day-to-day basis, knows the clerks, knows the judges, knows the security guards. So you get information if they need to like that, or smile and be like, hey, judge, good to see you. Have relationships. It's even above just the law itself. So I focus on my niche and know that well, and I'm growing at that. And I do study other areas to be well-rounded. But that's just the nature of immigration.
No, of course, that's really interesting. So when something does go in the direction of the courtroom, is that where referrals then come in?
Yeah, I mean, because I get so many contacts from the internet, and I do so few types of cases. Like I do the people investing, starting businesses, people getting married, and people with extraordinary abilities. But even with those areas, I turn down a lot of clients. So about, again, 90% or plus of cases I turn down. Then I refer to other friends of mine who do those areas and are dedicated, and I just refer those out to them. And hopefully, they get them. I don't follow up. There's this tradition of lawyers, it depends on your jurisdiction of getting a percentage fee of someone you refer a case to and stuff. I just don't do that because it's just a hassle keeping track of it. And those people do so much work, they deserve to get all the money with regards to immigration and stuff. So it's not something I traditionally do, sharing fees and stuff. I just say, I don't expect something from me, but I want to expect anything from you too. And again, I don't usually get referrals sent to me anyways, or I turn them down. So it doesn't really make a difference for me. But I just send it out to friends.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. When you were in law school, did you know that you were going to want to do immigration law, or were you considering something else?
No, I didn't want to practice law. I mean, the reason I went to law school is just because I love the Constitution and reading what the founders did in the Federalist Papers, and the foresight they had in the philosophy of liberty. And that was amazing to me. So I wanted to be like Jefferson. And so I said, Jefferson's a lawyer, I'll study law. So I went to law school. And pretty soon after that, I was pretty disgusted with law. I realized it's a large part of it is how much money you have. Money leads to success. The law itself doesn't make sense. A lot of times you get outcomes that don't really match what society or justice requires. And there's so many manipulations, so much subjectivity. Judges have issues, prosecutors have issues. It just grossed me out. So I didn't want to practice pretty quickly. I just wanted to get the education and see where I could take it from there. I got involved in business when I graduated. I started doing investments and stuff like that. A large part based on reading constitutional cases. For example, I graduated in 2008, 2009 when the economy was crashing. And there's a series of cases called the Gold Clause cases, which is lawsuits that happened during the Great Depression over, repayment of debt based on the price of gold and this kind of stuff. And when I read those cases, I saw that when the economy crashes, the government inflates the currency to make up for the losses that they have to pay back. And I'm like, well, we're going through something similar to that right now. So I took the money I had to pay back, tuition and my family had given me. Instead of, paying back the tuition, I just bought some certain stocks, some certain currencies, gold and silver. And in 2009, they hit a bottom. I bought those and they went up, and I made just as much as I would if I was practicing. And that's because, capital gains gets taxed at a lower rate than income tax does. So my friends were, practicing law, and they get taxed at a much higher rate than an investor does. And so that was something interesting I found out, but it was kind of a fluke. It's not something that consistently pull off. It was one of those once in a lifetime kind of situations. And so after a year or two of doing that and having great success, I realized it's not something I can continue. And that's when I went to a family friend's office to do a translation, and I became an immigration attorney. So it's like that.
Wow, it's really funny how we just kind of fall into things sometimes.
Yeah, and that's how it's going to be. Very rarely, unless you're a law student that has, your parents are in a certain type of law and you're following their footsteps, or you have some sort of hookup somewhere, you rarely choose where you're going to get into. I was thinking about maybe real estate or criminal law or business, this and that, but it's all about who hires you and where you start getting skills at. Immigration is kind of nuanced because people that like immigration go into it, and there's so many clients in need and so many clinics that help teach you to do that there is space to learn it and get involved in on your own. But in general, it's very hard to choose the practice area you're going to get into.
It kind of just depends on the opportunities that open themselves up to you.
Yes, it's life. You fall into it. And later on, if you get more skills and connections, maybe you could kind of go sideways and find a niche that you like. So a lot of times you won't even like what you think you like. So most people listening to this, myself included, always think like, oh, entertainment law is so interesting and stuff. But I went to Hollywood and worked for about 6 months as an internship for that stuff. And you're really just looking at contracts and you're dealing with people that are, a lot of times in the entertainment industry, very annoying and arrogant and difficult to deal with and have really high expectations for no reason. So it took away from that sexiness that it had. And then a lot of people, when I go talk at schools, I remember I was at UCLA talking a couple months ago, and there it was the International Institute. and they all wanted to get involved in international law. They knew Amal Clooney, George Clooney's wife, is international law. They're very excited about that. I said, well, there's no real international law as it is, because each jurisdiction has their own sovereignty and stuff. Primarily, national law is just contract law of one company suing another, trying because of some deal going bad. Immigration is considered international law, and California Bar considers it as part of that section, which is people, the movement of people. So that part is international. But even I had this aspect of being an international lawyer, traveling, going to different locations. It's not as fun when you do travel. If you do, it's probably going to, the firms or clients that can afford that are very big companies. So essentially, you're going to be working for some big company that you may not even like. These big corporations that do horrible things sometimes, banks, and I don't want to name them, I don't want to get sued, but the typical bad guy, big corporations, they're the people that could afford to hire international lawyers to sue other people on their behalf. And so it's not necessarily as fun and interesting a job as you thought it would. Essentially, you're looking at contracts and stuff, you're in a room. And when you travel, you're not going to go sightseeing. You're getting paid for your time there. When you're done, they're kicking you out to go back home because they don't want to pay more. So the reality of this stuff, once it hit me, it really destroyed a lot of those dreams and stuff like that. But immigration, the way I do it, is really cool because I could travel anywhere in the world, and I do to meet with people and talk about their lives and help them immigrate to the United States. So I've really carved out an excellent niche, which is rare for a lot of people to do. It's easy. Anyone could do it, but I've found like most people can't do it. There's some sort of mental block to do it the way I do it.
Well, that's very cool. I really appreciate you kind of speaking the fact to overcome the myths that people have about all this stuff. I think you've cleared up a lot of misconceptions about the different areas of law that people could practice. So
thanks.
I appreciate you doing this, John. You want to share a little bit about just the best way for folks to reach you, the podcast, the toolbox, and all that?
Yeah, my email is info@jqqlaw.com. I answer emails myself. My website is JQK Law for my firm, but the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox is the place where I put my podcasts and updated information on immigration laws. And I'm just constantly trying to do more videos and information systems to fill that in. And it's a work in progress. But yeah, and I also have social media. Usually if you type in JQK Law on Google and in the social media handle or name, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all this stuff, my stuff should pop up and you get access to it there.
Great. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time, and
Thank
I definitely encourage everyone watching and listening to check out JQK Law, the podcast, the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox. Again, you're offering a great resource to everyone, and I appreciate your putting it out there.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Take care.